Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings be upon you all. Today's topic, human rights in Islam. We all should be concerned about human rights, especially in the age when human rights violations are increasing. With increased racism, domestic violence, disputes, bloodshed, unlawful killing, and destructive wars that are making this world and humanity vulnerable, we need to ask questions about how human rights can be maintained. Despite effort from the United Nations and its member states, it seems that human rights are failing, and we all are suffering from hatred, envy, revenge, racism, cruelty, and dehumanisation. I would like to know I would like to know what Islam says and requires us to follow regarding human rights. Or does Islam just provide guidance only for prayers and fasting for our personal, spiritual, and development? If there is Islamic guidance, then as a Muslim I need to have very clear guidance about it, so I can practice human rights according to Islamic teaching, and then I can advise others to do the same. Dear brothers and sisters, today's show is about answering those questions. I welcome you to joining us and thank you for sharing this message with others. My guest today is Brother Freed Ahmed, who joins us from Christchurch, New Zealand. He will answer some questions around the topic that we all shall benefit from, inshallah. Assalamualaikum, Brother Freed, how are you?
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. My salam to all the viewers,
Likewise,
and
inshallah.
I wish everyone well.
Amen.
And looking forward to discuss about such a very important topic that touches not only you and me, but everyone, every human. It's very important, and we need to work together on this. Before you throw a question, I would like to say two things. One thing is I would like to acknowledge all the good humanitarian works that brilliant, kind, compassionate humans are doing.
Amen.
No matter what faith or no faith you are from, your humanitarian work, your human rights activities are very much valued. And as Muslims, we put your work very, very close to our heart because, we are also into the same duty and same responsibility. So this is one point. And the second point is today's discussion, as we say, we all, majority people in this world, we all want human rights to be prevailed. And in it, because Muslim is a big chunk in humanity, 2 or 1.5 billion people, we also have our share, have to have our contribution, and there is contribution. So today's discussion is, not to defame anyone, not to, you know, um, uh, make anyone feel less important. But this discussion is about, where Islam is coming from to solve the, humanitarian rights crisis. And, we think it is going to be a good informative, brief guidelines for Muslims and as well as for non-Muslim friends.
Jazakallah was very well put, Brother Freed, and yes, I agree totally. A lot of these people doing these human rights, the activists, and not just activists, the ones doing the actual work on the ground, they're doing it, for the love of humanity, and a lot of the times they're the ones getting injured and hurt and things like that as well, just by doing a humanitarian job, and they get caught in the middle and crossfire of different things. So, may Allah reward them graciously for all their hard efforts, inshallah. So, Brother Freed, now we can start on some of the questions, and hopefully, inshallah, grace of God, we can learn something about human rights from an Islamic point of view so that we can, as Muslims, put that into practice, and then maybe others who maybe see these as very good as well can put them into practice as well, the non Muslims. So, why is human rights so important, and why do we need to discuss it?
So, Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. Allahumma rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. So, just a little prayer to thank Almighty Allah, and also peace and mercy be upon Holy Messenger of Allah and all Holy Messengers of Allah as well, including Jesus, Moses, Abraham, and all of them and their families, their righteous companions. And also, I ask Almighty Allah to grant me ability to say what is right. So the question is general. This is not, uh, just in Islamic point of view, that the general question is that why human rights is so important for a peaceful world. So this question has an answer. So why human rights is important? The answer is also in the question for a peaceful world. So let me start with this peaceful world. For a peaceful world, our aim, the aim of humanity, should be like a garden. We see in the garden some trees are big, some are very small. We see the grass, even some grass are very small. Some flowers, it gives only one flower. Another flower plants give many flowers. One flower is with one color, another flower is another color. And in the garden, we see the varieties, the diversity of different kinds of plants. Why God has given us this practical example in our nature is to learn. Why? For example, I look at my garden every day, and I had never seen in last, the place I have living, since 2005, I have never seen one plant is arguing with another. I have never seen one branch is fighting with another. What I see a peaceful coexistence. And why there is peaceful coexistence between two plants or many plants? Because they follow the instruction from their creator, Allah. But for human, because Allah has given freedom of choice, and also for testing reason, Allah has implanted good and bad. And then said that this is the guideline and this is the instruction. If you follow bad, you will be in trouble. You follow good, you will be rewarded. So now the test began. So because of those things, good and bad, we have the instinct, good and bad. So sometimes we violate human rights. And sometimes we try to preserve the human rights. But with nature, for us to learn, Allah has fixed the rights of each other and has not given them freedom of choice to be naughty. That's why we see and we learn and we ponder that how peacefully in the garden, same garden, so many different of plants and trees and shrubs are following their rights and responsibilities for a beautiful, peaceful coexistence. So our question was that why human rights is so important. The first answer is for a peaceful coexistence between us. The second reason is that why human rights is so important is to avoid destruction. And for example, in every country, we design a road code. Because in the same road, you will see trucks, you will see taxis, you will see motorbike, you will see private car, you will see other forms of vehicles, varieties. And road code is the rights and responsibilities. So why the rights and responsibilities give you a right? Who will go before who? The rights. Who will have to be weighed responsibility? These road codes are designed so the drivers will follow and they can avoid accident and chaos. So this is an example of, avoiding destruction in this earth. You look at the heaven. There Allah has put automatic road code. And the heavenly stars, the sun, the moon, they follow that road code from Allah. And that road code is rights and responsibilities. So in chapter 36, Allah said in a verse, La shamsu yanbaghi laha an tudrika al-qamara wala al-layl sabiq an-nahar. So Allah has put a law there, rights and responsibilities, that the sun cannot go outside its orbit to hit the moon, or moon cannot, cross the boundary and collide with another things. Billions and trillions of stars, they also have the code of right and responsibilities. Why? So they will follow a boundary. And if they follow that boundary, the rights and responsibilities, then there will not be collision. In this world today, or yesterday, or in the past, why there is human rights violations? Because the code, some people are not following. The human rights puts a boundary that this is my right, this is my territory, and I must not exceed it to give you space, a fair space, a respect. So when we follow that boundary, then we achieve the peace in this world. So this is the second reason that why human rights is important for human to follow. The third reason, I'll give another example, is rights and responsibility is for happiness. It's for happiness. So let's take an example, a simple one, you and I know. The happiness between husband and wife. Suppose they are rich, from two rich families. They come in unity in marriage. And when they come in, they want to be happy. But husband does not give the rights to his wife. And wife does not give rights to the husband. Are they going to be happy? Even though they have billions of dollars in their bank account. Even though they have a luxurious life. But a husband puts his wife down all the time. Doesn't give her the right of respect. Are they going to be happy? No. And that's why we see so many rich people, sometimes celebrities. They are billionaires, millionaires. They marry for the sake of love today. And after a few months, you see they are running, for the lawsuit in the court. love runs away through the window. Why? Because love alone, the feeling alone, cannot make a husband and wife happy. I'll repeat again. Love, love alone. Love brings two hearts together. But once they come together, love alone cannot make them happy. What makes them happy? If they follow the boundary of rights and responsibilities. So, for example, wife's right is that husband will love her and will do everything to be trustworthy. And husband's right is that wife will love him and will do everything so he will not feel down. Similarly, if we expand that, if we wide that theme to the humanity, to communities, to neighbors, between two countries, why do they get into war? Why they are not happy? It's because someone is not doing his responsibility. Someone is not getting the rights. That's why unhappiness starts. Dissension, distrust begins. And then at last they get into war. The peace runs away the window. The happiness, despite their rich country, despite their rich bank account, the happiness is replaced by the anxieties, by the sorrow, by the grief, by the loss of lives. You look at Middle East, you look at Ukraine, Russia, you look at the world, someone is not following the proper rights. Someone is not following the proper responsibilities. As a result, the happiness is not there. So I gave three, points, very common points from common sense that, we all, doesn't matter which faith we come from or which no faith we come from, we all as a human, we can be united in this common concept that for the sake of peace, we need peaceful coexistence. For the sake of peace, we need to follow the boundary of rights and responsibilities to avoid destruction, bloodshed, killing, looting, robbing, and also for the sake of gaining happiness for all of us, we need to uh, be responsible to do each other's responsibilities so that other peoples will get their rights. And by doing that, we can have harmony, we can have unity, and we can have bonds, and we can be compassionate to one another. So these are the 3 points I think to start with. Is enough now. Uh, Looking forward to discuss more about it, inshallah.
Jazakallah, Brother Freed. It comes down to a very simple, like what you just said, 3 main points. But main thing is we need to be caring for others. Like what we want for ourselves, we should want for others as well. So that if we want something, we want to have someone else to have the ability. We can't just want it all ourselves, like me, me, me. Just give me all the minerals, all this and all that. I don't care about anyone else. This shouldn't be how it is. We should be caring for each other, like we care for ourselves, like we care for our own family. We want to care for others, and this is like I'm sure this is a main part of the mainstream religions. So it's not just Islam saying this, but in Islam we've got very strict sort of teachings on a lot of these things. And I know Brother Freed's going to go into more of these points further down, but it gets back to, like we talk about human rights, it's human caring and human wanting, not just for ourselves. Take away the greed, take away the envy, take away the power and things like that, and just be caring. Like you mentioned about the plants and things like that, they're not fighting, they're working together because some shed off some of their leaves and then they compost for some of the other plants to grow from and things like that. So, and then the birds and things like that take the seeds from some of the plants and take some of the food out and then drop it, and then it fertilizes it and grows again. So it's all comes a cycle. And if the parts of the cycle gets broken, then the whole thing is broken. And that seems to be where we've been heading in for the last many, many years. We just seem to be too much wanting power and greed and wealth and not caring about the other people. So, Brother Fried, let's move on to the next question, inshallah. So, what are the Islamic teachings about human rights, and why do we need to know these as a Muslim?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yeah, I'll try to be brief because brief, I look at the time and it runs. Okay, so inshallah, I'll try to be brief. So, for our understanding, knowledge about Islamic teaching in regards to human rights, for Muslims and non-Muslim friends, I want your attention because Islam, goes even far than the common sense about human rights. And why? I think we all need to understand it. Islam teaches that human rights is not a choice, but it is a worship. Look at this, how serious Islam has made it. Islam says human rights, giving human rights and taking responsibilities for human is not an option, but it is a mandatory. The Creator has made it mandatory, and as a believers in the Creator Allah, it is a compulsory action for Muslims, not a choice. And we know that when something is worship that is ordered by Almighty Allah, then the result is either way. One way is if we do it sincerely, not for name, fame, or selfish or greedy reason, but for the pleasure of Almighty Allah. If we do practice human rights, then we are worshipping Allah because Allah has commanded it, and for it we will gain reward. And Islam goes even further, that this reward is in this life you will get blessing, and in the next life your practice of human rights and responsibilities, you will be rewarded in the everlasting happy place in paradise. And another way, if you don't practice, if you don't worship it, then you will face bad consequences. So this is a core teaching and belief in Islam for every Muslim. And it is serious. So in the first question and answer, I described the common grounds, the common sense. But in Islamic teaching, it goes deeper. And the consequences of it not limited into this world benefit, but it goes beyond this world and it goes to the next life, even to the everlasting consequences in next life. So this is my first point. Please remember this. That's why in Islamic teaching, human rights and responsibilities is a worship. Got to do it. No option. Number two, Islamic teaching. Islamic teaching is that the Creator Allah, as He has created, for testing humans. He has not left the human without guidance. So put it this way. You take children to the school, and then you take the responsibility to guide them, to educate them. So teachers, school authorities are the guardians.
Assalamualaikum everyone. Not sure what happened here. Looks like Brother Freed has dropped out. I'll just see if I can get him back in. Here he is, Brother Freed.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
So Islam teaches that Creator Allah is the guardian for the mankind. The giver of the guidance for the mankind. So Islam teaches that as Allah has created humans, the same Allah has given the codes for human rights and responsibilities. And that is why you will find in the Quran, you will find, in the Old Testament, you will find in Psalm, all the guidance that Allah has sent. You will find that in a religion is teaching people about the rights and responsibilities. So Islamic teaching is that Allah has created all of us. The same Allah has given codes of rights and responsibilities. So in that sense, human rights is very sacred in Islam, in humanity. Why it is sacred? Because the human rights code has come originally from Almighty Lord of the universe. So this is the second point. The third point is Islam teaches that in terms of human rights, only Almighty Creator, He has given a complete human rights package. I'll repeat again, a complete human right package. Why complete? For a couple of reasons. The first reason is when human rights formula comes from you and me. What about us? What is the fact about us? 2R is human. 2R is human. So when we get human rights formula from us, sometimes we are biased. Sometimes we give priority to our race, to our nation, to our community, to our family, and to our spouses. But Creator Allah, He is never biased. We all are al-iyalu khalqullah. This is the teaching of Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. That the human family, all humans are family of Allah, family of the Almighty Creator. And Allah is the most fair. That's why when He gives the codes of human rights and responsibility, it is perfect. It is faultless. It is totally free from error because He created us. Hey, and He knows the exact amount of fair rights and responsibilities. So this is what Islam teaches, and that's why Islamic teaching as a believers, as a Muslim, we take it as a core value for human rights. And I mentioned that it is complete. This is also Islamic teaching. Islam claims that because Allah is complete in knowledge, Allah is the controller of the life and death, the nature, the environment, the cosmos, the universe. That's why only Allah, the Almighty God, has the knowledge and ability to give a balanced, perfect, and complete code of rights and responsibilities. And that's what Allah has said in the Holy Quran in chapter 5, verse 3. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. I have today, this day, I have completed the code of life. And that is why, when we study Quran and Prophet's teaching, we find that Islamic teaching is addressing every kind of rights and responsibility is every inches of life. So these are, the three, highlights, I would give without making it long so we can discuss about, more questions. Again, the summary is that Islamic teachings about human rights, I give three main points to remember. One is that in Islam, human rights is a worship, not an option, mandatory. And if we do not practice it, we'll be in trouble in this life, in the next life. But if we can practice it, then we will be rewarded by Allah in this life. For example, peace, happiness, stability, safety, security, prosperity, harmony. These are blessings. And in the next life, we can be in paradise, in the everlasting, joyful, happy place. So this is one point Islam teaches. Second point Islam teaches that the Almighty Creator, He has given a full package of the human rights and responsibilities code. The third main point is that we believe, or Islam teaches, that the package has come from God. Allah is complete, perfect, fair. So, I hope I have answered the questions. And then now, how, these things can be understood further, we can study about it. But I have just given three main points, and I hope it will help us, inshallah.
Jazakallah, brother, from Reed. So from that, as Muslims, we know that if something is mandated, we should do it and should follow it. If we do it, we'll get reward, and if we don't do it, we'll be answerable for that. And depending on the what the person who is their status and that is how much punishment they'll get. So say just an average person, if he just doesn't follow so much, he's not punished as much as say a leader of a country who's leading the whole country to that way against the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it becomes very important that we all need to know what these are so that we can follow it and then adhere to it in the best possible way, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So, Brother Freed, let's move on to the next question. So, could you highlight some human rights in Islam, please?
Okay, so some human rights in Islam. So, so Islam, you will find another interesting thing. Generally, speaking, specifically, if we go, the list will be too long. For example, human rights, rights of wife, rights of husband, rights of children, rights of parents, rights of relatives, rights of neighbor, rights of Muslim, rights of non-Muslim, rights of women, rights of widow, rights of student, rights of teacher, rights of colleagues, rights of country, rights of fellow human, and entire humanity. If we go in details, it will be too long. But in a nutshell, I would like to say, that in Islamic Code of Rights and Responsibility, you will notice something very, very interesting. And before I forget, I don't want to miss it. And, you can think about it. You are wise people, wiser than me. You will find that when Islam talks about human rights, general, Islam doesn't only say that this is your right and your responsibility, but Islam says why it is the right and it is the responsibility. You'll notice this. So, for example, I'll give you an example. So, my non-Muslim friend, he has rights on me. And if I ask, why? I don't know her. I don't know him. He doesn't speak the same language. He does not belong to my religion. He is from another country. He is from another race. He has a different color. He speaks in different language. Why should I care for him? Okay? Sometimes, some people I hear, they ask this sort of question. Why should I care? Why? It doesn't mean that they are saying, no, I don't want to care, but sometimes they want to know that why I do not know somebody, yet he has rights on me. Why a traveler who has come from overseas and lost his passport and his traveler's checks, and he is penniless and he needs some help so he can go back to his family, why should I help him with money? You can say, for human love. Good answer. You can say, I feel compassion. Good answer. You can say, oh, uh, yeah, I have money and I want to help somebody. All the answers are good. Now you look at the Islamic answer. Islam goes deeper. Islam goes deeper. When the three answers I gave, within these three answers, the common sense, the country, the law of the country gives us options that you may feel compassionate to help this guy, or you may not. Up to you. The court is not going to judge you because if you are not helping, despite your ability. But in Islam, different. Islam, first of all, gives the answer why you got to help, why it is an obligation on you. And secondly, Islam says, if you do not fulfill your obligation, you are going to be accountable in the court of Allah. So let's take the example of a traveler. I don't know him. What Islam says that why I should help him. Islam says he's your human brother. Islam says she's your human sisters. Because the same Allah, the same God has created you and him from the same parents, Adam and Eve. So you are a large human family. And when we think you are my family, then automatically the concept of rights and responsibility comes. That is how Islam addresses that you must care of a traveler, even she is not from your country, because she is your human sister. You saw, a widow is crying. She lost her purse. You do not know her. But if you have ability, with every ability, you got to help. Why? She's my human sister. Allah made me her human sister. And I have rights on her. She has rights on me. Islam answers like this. And another point I said, Islam made an obligation. It is in the Quran, it is in the Hadith. We can quote lots, you can do your study that how Allah has categorically mentioned so many different subgroups to say that they have rights on you, including travelers. For example, orphans, poor. We may say, I work very hard. This is my money. Why do I have to help an orphan? Allah said in the Quran, in chapter Zariyat, verse 19, وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. Allah said that I have given the rights of the poor in your wealth, if you are wealthy. Allah has fixed it. And we cannot take it as an optional. That's how Islam is serious and makes it a worship. Even in the Quran, you will find verses. يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ الْمُجْرِمِينَ مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرٍ قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ وَلَمْ نَكُ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ. When some people will go to the punishment, the angel guards will say, what was your crime? And they will say, one of our crimes were we refused to feed the poor. We had ability. And who is that poor? Muslim? No! Each and every human, anyone is poor, Islam said. You have ability, you share. In a hadith, Prophet ﷺ said, you are not a Muslim, you are not a Muslim, you are not a Muslim. Companions ask, who are you talking about, O Messenger of Allah? Then he said, you are not a Muslim when you are eating up to your throat in satiety, knowing that your neighbor is hungry. And that neighbor can be anyone. Believer, non-believer, this race, that race, doesn't matter. Fellow human. That's how human rights, in Islam. Islam made that each and every human has rights on you, and this is mandatory, not optional. You have to care for one another. You have to protect one another. You have to grant safety for one another. You have to be fair to one another, and you have to be responsible for one another. So let me give another example. Another example is rights for women. And inshallah, because I'm going to say briefly, I think we should do, another show on the title Women Rights in Islam. But here simply, just one point. In this world, we say that we got to make sure that women rights are practiced. So you ask, what do you mean by women rights? You will find that most common answer is that equal rights, which is good. Equal right is better than no rights. Okay? It is good. No complaint about it. But a friend of mine, non-Muslim, he asked me quietly, he said, Brother Farid, if you do not mind, can you explain to me that why Islam does not campaign about equal rights between men and women? I said, very wise question. But I'll start you answering if you have patience and time, so I can talk to you about 1.5 hours on it. He said, I have time. After 1.5 hours, he hugged me. And he said, I did not know about it. So why Islam doesn't talk about equal right? The answer is Islam talks about a fair right, a fair right, a fair right. The rights with justice and fairness. What does it mean? I'll give you an example. In the name of equal right, a lady, she's a wife, she gets pregnant, she goes through monthly period, pain, yet she has to work. She has to look after the baby most of the time. Husband is away. He doesn't like to clean the poo or vomit from the baby. She has to cook. She has to go and do the 40 hours job as husband is doing. Is it called fair rights? In the name of equal rights, is it called fair rights? How many hours this wife is working? And how many hours the husband is working? She is doing triple jobs. Islam is very fair. Islam says. That's why in some cases, woman needs triple rights, not equal. So inshallah, we will discuss about it. I believe we can do another show on it. So Islam, this is another example, women rights. And it is a very controversial and misunderstood topic. So we need to discuss more, and we need to do some, fact findings for the sake of truth. Now, another example, because looking at the time, Islam gives the religious freedom rights of religious freedom, rights of religious freedom. Example is that Islam teaches La ikraha fid din in Quran chapter 2 verse 256. Islam teaches that there is no compulsion about religion. You cannot force your faith on others. By force, you cannot convert people. By force, you cannot convert people into Islam. By force, you cannot convert people into Christianity, into any other religion. And this is mandatory. There is no question about it. And Muslims, 1.5 billion Muslims cannot change it. Because this right Allah has given, and it is fixed. Another example, in Quran, Allah said in chapter 109, verse number 6, Lakum dinukum waliyadin. For your religion, and for my religion is my religion. For our religious reasons, we should not hate one another. We should not attack one another. We should not, boycott you because you have different faith. Categorically, Allah has made the rule that this sort of things cannot happen. You practice your religion faithfully, peacefully. I practice my religion peacefully. But when it comes to the humanitarian things, we are together. We are no longer different. So, for example, just a simple example, we are working together. And I am a Muslim, you are a Hindu, another one is Christian. Three of us, we are working together. Prayer time came. I pray to one Allah. Another one pray another way. Another one pray another way. In that prayer, Islam has given the freedom. You pray in your way. Ultimately, your creator Allah will judge you. This is Allah's duty. Not three of you to judge one another and then start punching. Islam never allows that. So let Allah to be the judge, not you. But as soon as you finish your prayer and you want to do the business, again, three of you are together. You want to do humanitarian work, three of you are together. If anyone's children is sick, go and run and help. You are together. If anyone is not having enough food, help. You are in together. When it comes to Islamic practice, your practice is between you and your Allah. But in humanitarian things, other things, you are like one family. So I think looking at the time, these 3 points, I think is enough for the wise people. So I will summarize again. In Islam, the Islam teaches the human rights, and also at the same time, it teaches that why we need to follow those, rights and responsibilities. Number 2, Islam talks about fair, more than equal rights for women. Number 3, Islam gives the rights for religious freedom. So, looking at the time, we got few more minutes. Let us go for next question, Brother Thompson.
Jazakallah, Brother Fred. Yes, so we'll just jump straight into it while we still have a little bit of time. So why are human rights in Islam misunderstood, and what is needed to share the correct message about human rights according to the teachings of Islam?
Okay. The reason is this, human rights in Islam are mostly in the book. And some Muslims, due to their ignorance or human weaknesses, they are doing opposite. They are, not practicing human rights. And as a result, many other people, without checking the facts, they are thinking, oh, one Muslim has done that bad thing, violated human rights. That means the entire religion of Islam is against human rights. So this is one thing is creating misunderstanding. And I'll give you an example, just a story, a brief story. There was a man, and he has put his mobile in his top pocket. He was walking, and then suddenly another, two people came, and one was running for some reason, and another one came and said to this guy who has the mobile in the top pocket, said, "Hey, this guy is running away because he's a thief and he has stolen his mobile, stolen your mobile." So this guy, with his immediate reaction, he started running after that, a running man, caught him, people gathered, and said, "Who is he? He is a thief. He has stolen, my mobile. So let us beat him." And then when he was beaten, no energy. Then from the crowd, a man said, "Sir, I can see your mobile in your pocket." Then he checked out, "Oh, yeah, oh, yeah." From this story, what is the lesson? Sometimes people say, "Oh, Islam is bad." Like the guy said, he's a thief. And then other people sometimes, without checking the fact, without studying about Islam, they say, "Oh, yes, they are bad, so kill them, boycott them, made the immigration rule harder so they cannot come, deport them," this sort of things. This sort of thing is happening. So my humble request to Muslims, please do not give bad example, because most people, they do not read the Quran. They want to see Muslim, and through Muslims' actions, they make a judgment. And for others, I would say, do not make the judgment like the man who heard that his mobile was stolen, without checking, went and did some damage. Please do the checking. So these are two main reasons. But the third one, in 1 minute, I would say that somehow, not a lot of people, but some people, they harbor hatred for some reason. Could be so many reasons. I don't have time to discuss about reasons, but they harbor hatred against Muslims. So they want to deliberately falsify few things, and they try to make a little mole into mountain to make sensationalized news and messages to create problems, disharmony, distrust between Muslims and others. What's the solution? Again, the solution is that as a whole, we should not jump into conclusion without checking. We should not generalize entire Muslim and Islam just looking at few bad examples from Muslims. And another solution is, we as a Muslim, we should take the responsibility to be good ambassadors for Islam. So we should practice human rights according to Quran, according to Sunnah. Then the misunderstanding will reduce in a great deal. So this is what the time allowed. Again, thank you very much for listening. Jazakumullahu khairan. And in my talk, if I said something unwise, I take responsibility. This is for my shortcoming, not for the shortcoming of Islam. I, individual, I can make mistake, but we believe Allah and His guidance is free from mistake, pure. So let us study. Let us find out the truth about human rights Islam, and accordingly, let us make our fair attitude and help one another come together as humans to look after one another, give one another rights, take responsibility for one another, and as a result, the world will be a better place, and that's what we all want. So take care. Again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.